Hey there, guys. Welcome to my channel. Cerise Fairfax here. I'm coming at you from the north coast of the Dominican Republic in a province called Puerto Plata, in a municipality called Sosua, and a little local neighborhood called Los Charamicos. That's where I live. I live where I love, and I love where I live. Let's get into story time today. Story time today, I will admit, is not necessarily one story with a few characters. It's going to be a very interesting turn of events. Today, we're going to talk about crimes in the Dominican Republic, the surprising truth of why tourists get arrested and what some of them have done. But first, let's just get into the lowdown. You came for the sun, the sea, and possibly the rum and the wonderful coffee. But some tourists leave the Dominican Republic in police custody. Guys, today we are diving into real life stories like we always do with story time, but with a little bit of shocking crimes and avoidable mistakes made by visitors coming right here to paradise. Because just because you're on vacation, it doesn't mean that the law is on vacation, you know? Let's start with the small stuff. Okay, so there are the most common offenses, the ones people commit without even thinking they'll get into trouble. But down here, trouble comes fast depending on who you are. Let's talk about drug possession. You might think carrying a little bit of weed is no big deal, but here in the DR, even a small bag can be considered possession with intent to distribute. Result? You could be looking at 6 months to 5 years behind bars. Be careful with the marijuana. I gotta tell you, I know somebody who did have it on them at one time. We'll name him Kent, and he had some on him. Now, he wasn't even like a Rastafari, or he didn't even look like a target. He just happened to be, he went into the playero and he was buying some food. He reached into his pocket and weed came out when he was taking his money out. And the guy that works there went over to him and pointed to the ground. Didn't even pick it up for him or anything. And it was just a small little baggie. And he pointed to the ground and he said, "You better get rid of that because you can go to jail right away." And Kent was like, oh my gosh, he was so terrified because, you know, the guy that was working in the store, he was like very angry when he looked at Kent. And so, yeah, a lot of people, you know, when you are out and about, they will look at marijuana as something that is a no-no. All right. How about drunk and disorderly conduct? Stumbling out of a bar, yelling in the street, peeing in public. That can lead to a night or more in jail. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, you know, but if you are yelling in the street, the police definitely will not ignore it. If you're stumbling out of a bar, sometimes they will ignore it because they just don't want the problem, especially if it is somebody who is really intoxicated and, you know, they're a gringo and they're leaving a gringo bar. A lot of the times they see that so often that they're like, they're going to get on a moto concho, or they probably have friends with them. We'll just leave them alone. So it really depends. But if you're fighting and arguing in the streets because you are out of it, you could get into a lot of trouble. And the fines range from $25 to $85 USC. But if you disrespect the police or refuse to comply, you might get deported. Yeah. Now, I don't know anybody who got deported for being drunken in the streets and stuff, or being rude to the police. I've never seen that before, but I have seen people be rude to the police, and I have seen people go to jail for being rude to the police, and they pay the police off and they get out right away. So I found all these online, and we're going to get to more. Fighting in clubs or bars. Vacation tempers can flare, I'm telling you, but throwing those punches, especially if someone gets injured, can turn into a charge for assault. That means up to 3 years in prison, even if it started as just a scuffle. Yeah, be careful. I know a guy that he didn't go to jail for 3 years or anything, but he was here. He was with his girlfriend. They were in a bar hanging out. He had a couple of drinks. His girlfriend, she was also a foreigner, but there was a guy coming on to her. And the guy was another foreigner, and he was coming on to her. She was from Puerto Rico. He thought she was Dominican, and they were in an area here in Sosua where, there's a lot of working girls, and she was at the bar. And so he thought she was a Dominican working girl, and he hit on her. Now, she does have an accent, a Spanish accent. She is Latina. And so he said to her, he's like, hey, the guy was drunk, and he starts coming on to her, like, let me take you home. And she's like, no. Now, the music was loud. She didn't have to give him a whole explanation that she's not a working girl. She didn't have to say, no, I'm not a working girl. There's my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. She's allowed to just say no. And that's what she did. She said no. And he's like, oh, come on, bitch. You want it. I'll pay you double. You think you're better than all the other girls here? Blah, blah, blah. And she was trying to ignore him. She just wanted to get the drinks and get back over to her boyfriend. And her boyfriend was watching all of this go on. And finally, he walks up behind the two of them. And then he says to the guy, he's like, hey, this is my woman. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, right. You think that these women here are going to be loyal to you? And he's like, this is my woman from Puerto Rico. She's like my wife. So back off. And he's like, yeah, whatever, buddy. And they started to argue back and forth. And the drunk guy just so much disrespected the girlfriend and the boyfriend. But the boyfriend, he was intoxicated, and he just went pow, and he punched the guy, knocked him out. The guy hit his head, ended up going to the hospital, had to get stitches. He had a concussion. And the guy with the girlfriend, we'll call him the boyfriend, he had to pay $3,000 for a lawyer. And he had to stay longer in the Dominican Republic because he had to go through court. It was a whole entire nightmare for him. So he got into a lot of trouble. Now, he didn't go to jail and for 3 years. And even though that is online, like I said, I don't know anyone that went there. But yeah, you can definitely get in trouble, a lot of trouble. And public nudity or indecent exposure. Yes, topless sunbathing in common areas, really common areas, like maybe on Playa Sosua. They may ask you to cover yourself up if it's a busy day and if the police happen to be walking by and seeing you. Now, on Playa Sosua, the police usually don't walk their beat along the water. So if you are from Europe, I notice a lot of European women like to do that on Playa Sosua. They like to tan with their top part off. No one's going to arrest you and, put you in the tank for a day or two. They may just, I don't know who would say, put your top on. Most people just look and be like, okay, do your thing. So this is just one online, but it does say if you do get picked by the police, you can expect a fine, possibly jail, and embarrassment. Now, here's another one. Unlicensed drone use. Bringing a drone is great. A lot of people bring them and a lot of people fly them over the beach and they get a lot of good footage, but flying it near a government building, especially the military base or airport without permission, not great. Drones are immediately confiscated and fines can go over 1,700 USD in some cases. And you'll face charges also in some cases. Now, when it says some cases, I'm pretty sure that just is a lighter form of saying you can get you can pay them off. So now let's get into the serious crimes because well, let's get serious. There are the crimes that carry long sentences, and I have seen some of those, and some even destroy lives. Sex tourism. Yes, even if you are unknowingly doing it, if you're caught with someone underage, even if you were lied to, you are responsible. And the law does not play with anybody underage, okay? Like if you're with a girl underage, you will get into huge problems. That is a 10 to 20 year sentence. Imagine. Many foreigners end up in jail this way, especially in areas like Sosua and Boca Chica. And I, unfortunately, have heard a lot of those stories of when guys come here and they have been lied to. And that's going to be next week's story time. Spoiler alert. It will be about a guy who was lied to by a woman that was underage. And we will get into that then. I'm not going to say any more about it, but he definitely did get a serious sentence. And how about human trafficking? Yes, human trafficking. Some foreigners have gotten involved in moving people illegally, including women or minors. Now, it's a very serious problem, human trafficking. If someone thinks that they can come here and, they can get someone else, like let's say they're having a party, because I did hear of a guy before, we'll call him Brad. He had a party and he was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to get a whole bunch of girls from Sosua and I'm going to grab them and I'm going to take them to another part where they were having a party, and he was flying in a whole bunch of guys. Well, he went to a guy on the beach, okay? A guy on the beach that he usually just talks to all the time. And he said, can you get me like 15 women? This guy on the beach got 15 women, but some of them were minors. And he shipped them all over and they went to the party and they all had a good time, but the party got busted. Who busted the party? The police, obviously. But who told the police? The same guy who got the girls. Yes, and he got a double payoff. Okay, financial fraud, credit card scams, fake investment deals, or pretending to be a real estate agent. Exactly. A lot of people try to pretend. Now, you don't have to have a real estate license here to become an agent, to sell properties. But if you are taking money from people and you are pretending that it is your property, and then, someone gets ripped off in the long run, you can get in trouble. That's considered a financial crime, and that could carry 5 to 10 years in prison. And the Dominican Republic government does not protect foreigners. They feel if you are coming to this country, you need to be smart and you need to really cover your own butt at the end of the day. Another one, assault or harassment of locals. Yelling or hitting a local is not taken lightly. Neither is unwanted touching or verbal abuse. You can be charged with harassment, assault, or worse. That's 1 to 5 years, depending on the case. The last story time before this one, it was about a gringa that went to jail. And she was like, she all riled out. Like she was just like a jealous wife, unhappy woman, very uncomfortable with her circumstances. And so she actually sprayed some type of bear spray at one of the servers in the bar. And she also yelled in the bar, and she got a really bad reputation. And she ended up going to jail here in the Dominican Republic. And she ended up having just to leave because she gave up. She was like, she just didn't feel comfortable. And not only that, once you start acting up, then the locals start acting out. They will look at you like you are just not welcome here. That's another reason why I am writing this book right here called the Sosua Survival Guide, because it is a book that's going to help you survive in Sosua and know a little bit about what is wrong to do, what is right to do. And I'm not even speaking legally. I'm speaking just knowledge about the culture and the traditions here. So look out for that book. I'm still working on it. Do me a favor, in the comments below, put survival and subscribe, and I will make sure you get a free copy when I'm finished the book. Now, also, domestic disputes in hotels or Airbnbs. Police will come if there's yelling, violence, or complaints. Even couples fighting privately can end up with one person in jail and both blacklisted. Like, I have seen that so many times. I have seen couples get here, they go to the bar, they get drunk, and they, the woman either gets jealous of her husband, or the husband either gets jealous of the wife, or, something's usually jealousy and alcohol involved, and they start arguing and they start fighting, and, they could be like getting into their car. I've seen one time that they're getting into their car, the police pulled right up beside them because the husband was yelling at the wife and he was freaking out, and the wife was like yelling at him, and they were getting in the car together, The police rolls up beside them in their big truck, and they look at them and they say, "¿Qué pasa?" Like, what's going on? And now these two, they didn't speak any Spanish at all. And the police said, come on, you're getting in the truck. And they took them both to the police station. Now, some of the people who witnessed it said they just did it to extort them for money. They're like, oh, they saw two people, it's near Christmas time. The police went and took them to jail for no reason, just to kind of make them pay their way out. But the husband had to stay in for the night. The wife had to go home, and the wife was allowed to go home, and she needed to get money to go bail her husband out the next day. But she also got herself a lawyer. So the lawyer said, okay, just pay money. He won't have to stay in jail, but you guys were disturbing the peace. Right? So a little bit of extortion, maybe. I don't know. But it does say right here, it is the law. They will take both people. And when they say blacklisted, what that means is, again, the locals and the police will start to look at you very differently. They will look at you like you are bad news. They will look at you like, oh yeah, there's that one. And they will never forget it. All right. Let's go into cultural and legal misunderstandings, because some tourists break laws here just because they don't get things, So let's break down some common misunderstandings that lead to arrests. A lot of people think they come here and it's like, oh, it's a party destination. That's their mentality, right? Some visitors treat the DR like it's lawless, but laws exist, as we already are talking about right now, and they are enforced. Now, the misunderstanding is the police. You're not in Canada. You're not in the States. Police don't always speak English here, and you don't get special treatment just because there is a special police task force for tourists here. If you resist arrest, raise your voice, or act like you're above the law, it will backfire. Now, another thing that people do openly in the streets, I've seen people do bribes that backfire. Offering money to get out of trouble. That's illegal here, right? Just because it does work, it doesn't mean that it's legal. And if you're caught trying to bribe a police officer, expect to get reprimanded or even get charged for that. Short story. There was a guy, and he was coming out of a bar, and, he was drunk, and he was yelling at a couple of girls on the street, just because I guess one girl stole from him, And she was just ignoring him. She's like, I don't even know who you are, whatever. And she was ignoring him. And he's standing on the side of the road and he's screaming and he's yelling at her. He's like, you took money from me before. You know who I am. You know who I am. And she's like, I don't know who you are. And so she tried to walk away from him. Now, on Pedro Clisante, the police are very, very prevalent. The police are very visible at all times. They're like sharks going up and down the roads constantly. And they pulled right up beside him and they looked at him and they're like, what's going on? Like, ¿qué pasa? And he didn't speak Spanish, but he kept pointing at the girl and he's like, mafiosa, chapeadora. And because he was drunk, he really couldn't get his words out right. He couldn't say to them in a proper sentence, she took money before or anything of that nature. He was just like, blah, 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 and he was belligerent. Well, the police said, you're going to be getting arrested. We're putting you in the back. And he pulled out 1,000 pesos and he said, here, no, it's okay. I'm going to my hotel here. And he gave them 1,000 pesos. And the cop looked at him with a dirty look, right? And then the guy's like, oh, come on. It's 1,000 pesos. It's your day's wages. Like, come on. And the cop looked at him again, like this time with raised eyebrows, as if to say, dude, like, that's not happening. So the guy now reached back into his wallet and he took out a $50 American bill and he said, here, take this. This is good enough. And he's like, this is American money. It's gold. And the cop just looked at him and the cop was so disgusted. And the cop said, come on, let's go. Now I saw that guy maybe about a month after that. And the guy said to me, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, it was a serious thing. He's like, they were acting like, I had a pistol or something. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, he went to jail. And he said he ended up paying his way out anyway, but it wasn't no $50. He said he ended up paying his way out with $500 USD. I was like, oh my gosh, right? But he said next time he would do it in secret. He said next time he wouldn't resist. He'll just go straight to the police station and just talk with the guys. He's like, now the police officers, he said, I know them. Like, I'm cool with them. The same ones that did the arrest, he's cool with them now. They say hi to him. And when he's on the street, whether he's drunk or not, they'll pull over, they'll say hi. They look out for him now because they know that his story was true. But at the same time, he can't offer money in front of a whole bunch of tourists, and those cops can't take money like that either. All right. So now let's look at some real life tourist arrests right here in the Dominican Republic. A tourist in Punta Cana slapped a waitress after she brought the wrong drink. Okay, this is a guy that slapped a waitress in Punta Cana. He spent 3 nights in jail. He paid a $400 USD fine and was deported. Here's another one. A Canadian flew a drone over a military base near Puerto Plata. The drone was seized and he was fined over 2,500 USD. Then banned from returning for 3 years. A Canadian. And yeah, your Canadian dollars, if you're Canadian like I am, your Canadian dollars here, worthless. Everything is priced in American dollars. Okay, in 2023, an American was arrested for having 8 grams of weed in Punta Cana. He spent 6 weeks in jail before being released on bail. 6 weeks in jail here is probably like 6 months in the US. Like, the jails here are not made for people who are, innocent until proven guilty. They don't care. It is deplorable. Cells, people are all in it like sardines and people are sleeping on the floors. It's dirty. Yeah, they don't give you orange clothing. Like, it is completely different. So that's a big thing. 6 weeks in jail before being released on bail. A German man in Sosua was convicted of sexual misconduct with a minor. He is now serving 15 years in a Dominican prison. You guys can find this online. Again, I don't give names. I just like to protect people's names, right? But these are online. You could probably just Google German man in Sosua was convicted of sexual misconduct with a minor, 15 years, and we'll give you the story. A British tourist verbally abused hotel staff while drunk. And he spent 48 hours detained and was immediately deported. Yeah. Now, let's list some crimes you might not even think about, but they carry big consequences. Fake documents, using like a fake ID or passport, up to 5 years in prison, even if you just wanted a discount or thought it didn't matter. I know a woman who got a fake cedula here. That is like, it's kind of like a birth certificate, but not, because once you get your residency, you get your cedula as well. CEDULA. It's just an identification card. And I know a woman who bought a fake one, and she was using that to like move around the Dominican Republic. She was driving with it. She was like trying to get different discounts and stuff. And yeah, she got in huge trouble. She got charged. She didn't do 5 years in prison. She did 3 months, but still 3 months is still a lot. Illegal firearms, bringing a pistol or even a single bullet without paperwork. Well, that one I think is pretty clear, right? You can get up to 3 to 10 years depending on the weapon. Hiring people illegally. Some tourists open small rentals or businesses and hire locals off the books. That can lead to fines, license cancellation, and possibly deportation. I think that one's quite severe, because I mean, if you're offering a job to a local off the books, I mean, sometimes locals, when they're off the books, like they're only there for a month or two anyway. Once a local is working for you for more than 3 months, usually they can take you to court if you try to fire them, because they can prove that you're paying them all that time. So I think that one's a little severe in my opinion, because I mean, a lot of people hire people and just, pay them under the table. So it's called in Canada. All right. Environmental crimes, taking coral, shells, harming animals, or dumping waste on protected land. That has a heavy fine, and jail time applies if it is really severe. I know a woman who was on the beach, and she was looking for black coral. Now, black coral is actually illegal in Cuba. You're not allowed to get black coral in Cuba, or tortoise shells, like jewelry made out of tortoise shell. And when I was in Cuba, I did get tortoise shell jewelry, and I still have tortoise shell jewelry, but I didn't really realize that it was illegal in Cuba. And I really didn't realize either that like it was real turtle shell, and it's turtle shell jewelry is really expensive because it's kind of like a snowflake, it is there. You'll never find another piece like that again. It's like a diamond. But so I found out here when I was here, I was on the beach, and a woman was like, I want a piece of coral. And she asked one of the divers to go get her a piece of coral, and he gave her a piece of coral, and he's like, here. And it was just your white coral, your big chunk white coral. And he's like, here. And she's like, no, I really want a piece right off the reef for memory. And I want to get a piece of jewelry made with it. And he looked at her and he's like, oh no, that's illegal. I can't go destroy the reef. I can't go like take a coral off for you. Like that's not right. That's killing the animals. That's killing the fish. And he got real serious with her, and she looked at him. She's like, oh, come on. It's only one piece of coral. He said, so what if I do that for you and I do that for every other tourist that wants to make jewelry? And he's like, don't you think the Dominicans themselves want to sell the coral and make jewelry? And she's like, oh, you're making too much of it. And he said, you can go to jail for that. And I just sat quietly because I was already like, gee, I already know it's illegal in Cuba. Anyway, let's move on. Child endangerment, leaving your kids alone at the beach or hotel while you party. That's considered neglect, and child services will get involved. You can be arrested or deported. Now that's something. So sometimes people travel to escape, right? They escape the stress, the job, the relationships, the self. But wherever you go, guys, your energy follows. If you're a chaotic person in general at home in your own country, you'll be chaotic abroad. So let this be your reminder. Travel not just with luggage, but with wisdom. Please, with respect, with awareness, because a moment of bad judgment can cost you a lot. And it could be something that you'll be like, well, that was nothing. Someone else did it and nothing happened. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. And paradise doesn't feel like paradise when you're looking at it from a jail cell. Guys, let me know in the comments below. Have you seen any wild tourist behavior in the Dominican Republic or even anywhere else during your travels? In the comments, let us all know. And if this video helped you out or opened your eyes, please do me a favor, my friends, my sweethearts, my lovelies. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, that like button, smash it for me, and make sure you subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to hear the truth from paradise. Stay smart, stay safe, and remember, the law doesn't take a vacation. Guys, I love you. God bless you. Enjoy your day. Remember, tomorrow's not promised to you, so make the best out of today.